All right, we are live here in episode 92 on the Real Kyper at Noon show. You want to know why I know we're live right now? Because I had Doug Maclean screaming about 30 seconds ago, we're live. And we had Jordan say, not yet. But that's what happens when a guy comes in and changes the title of the show. We are now Real Kyper at 11 a.m. Eastern. And why? Because the star of the show needs to get out around noon Eastern. And that's when we sent the message out the other day that we're going an hour earlier. And everybody is out of sync right now. I'm a little bit out of sync. I think Jeremiah's out there. And he had to get up at 7 a.m. Alaskan time. He's out of sync. Jordan, are you out of sync right now with Doug Maclean going 11 a.m. on us?
Yeah, my morning walk, my stroll, my whole routine is kind of thrown off here. You know, we're the team. Joe's in Central Time. I'm in Mountain Standard. So
we had a couple of messages yesterday, and our good friend of the show, John Shannon, tweeted out, "Got to be his golf game." I had another one that said pickleball. What else did we have? March Madness. It's got to be he put his bets in on Blitz Bet, so he wants to get to the basketball tournament.
I got a few about maybe a job opening in Buffalo. It's a conspicuous absence here the past few days.
Really? That's interesting. So,
I'll tell you,
hey, Lucy, explain.
Well, it's very simple. I took yesterday off because I was told and asked to do a favor to try to get Steve Dangle some credibility. and the number one way for Dangle to get some credibility is to get on our show and shoot his mouth off. So I did Dangle a favor. I stepped back, let him go on the air. I should have done that when I was at Sportsnet because I'd never let him on the same time as me. But we let him on. It helped his credibility. It helped his numbers. Didn't do shit for us, but it helped him.
I thought he did a hell of a job. Did you hear him?
I didn't hear him.
Do a Doug Maclean impersonation?
No, I didn't.
Well, we'll have to
Did
get
it
that
mention something about Rick? Did it mention Rick Nash's name by any chance?
Rick Nash was the second star of that impersonation. Dangle was the first star. So
yeah, that's good. Well, thanks for filling in, Dangle.
All right, not your typical hockey analyst that played the game or, quite frankly, knows how to skate. But I wanted somebody to step up the energy that I knew would kind of be a bit of a lull on Wednesday's show, and sure enough, he exceeded my expectations.
Mm-hmm.
You okay with that?
I'm 100% for it. I wish he'd become a regular.
All right. So we'll just I think it's pickleball, to be quite honest with you. I think that's...
I'll tell you what. Now that I got my elbow fixed, I did, in fact, play pickleball yesterday, and we were playing another couple here in the building, and we lost 2-0, and then we played a third game, but we switched. We went, wives against husbands. I was finding myself getting pissed off on the court, like sort of almost yelling at Jill when she missed an easy shot, and I'm thinking like that you're getting too emotionally engaged in this sport. You got to back off a touch. And she looked at me and she said, "I don't enjoy playing with you. I don't." Now she's already said that with respect to golf. Now it's turning to pickleball. So I've got to work on my overall attitude. I do. When I'm engaged in participation sports.
Does the group need a nap between game 2 and game 3? Or
No.
do you just jump right into it?
Oh, we just jump right in it. We hit the courts for an hour, so we jumped into, three full games.
Let's get into let's jump right into 10 games last night, Mac. And before we maybe get into a few specifics, I want to go to our thumbnail. And Nikita Kucherov is out there. He's back on the ice. And while some contending teams are clamoring right now to figure out what they're going to do at the trade deadline, we watched Tampa Bay go through this pandemic season, and they've got an MVP waiting to come back in, and no other team does. How does this not put Tampa Bay right at the top of the list when you think about who's the favorite from here on in? People should have they woke up this morning, saw our thumbnail, and went straight to BlitzBet and put it all on Tampa Bay.
Well, look, how can you not when you're exactly what you just said? And then you say, okay, Kucherov's coming back, and we know about Kucherov, but Vasilevskiy is picked up right where he left off at playoff time as the best goaltender in the NHL. I don't care what anybody said. To me, best goaltender in the NHL.
When we watch this, and fans outside of Tampa Bay, I've watched this whole thing unfold, and we went through the bubble last season, and it was all about Tampa Bay needing to get this done now because come next year, they're going to lose somebody. And they never did. And while we've tried to figure out whether certain players like Anthony Cirelli were going to get offer sheeted or who they're going to have to trade, Tyler Johnson, somebody's gone. How do they get rid of him? Waivers, all of that. I mean, nobody really saw hiding a Kucherov through a long-term injury as a way of dealing with it. And when I say hiding, of course, it lends towards circumvention of the salary cap. Mac, we can all look at this, and at the end of the day, Julian Brisebois and Tampa Bay Lightning have done nothing wrong. They've completely played by the books, but people are pissed off right now.
Well, first of all, they moved, two guys in Paquette and Coburn and saved a little bit of money there. I looked the other day, if I'm not mistaken, they're at $95 million in player costs at this particular time. So what happens with Tyler Johnson? Does he go to the minors? Does he, you can fool with the taxi squad and so on, but he's a one-way, so it wouldn't affect it. So something still has to give there. But to get Kucherov back in, unless it's playoff time, unless he waits till the playoffs to come back, I got to believe they're going to want to get him in some games prior to the playoffs.
I don't know if they can.
Well, that's the problem. They still have a cap issue if they want to bring him back prior to the playoffs. As far as I'm concerned, they do. Now, was it a lucky break that he got hurt? Well, it saved them with a mass panic in cap related issues. So they're right now, Vasilevskiy, Hedman, Point, Kucherov, Stamkos is playing great. You wouldn't want to play them.
It's not like anybody's running away with career years or having MVP numbers, but it's almost as if this group has figured it out. And we saw that a few seasons ago with Tampa Bay blowing their brains out during the regular season, and never has there been more talk about how ready they were, and then they lose in the first round. And yet now you watch them, and it's, hey, we know there's the regular season, and we know there's the real season, and we'll be ready for what matters most.
Yeah, and I mean, where's their weakness, Nick? Where is their weakness when you look at this hockey team? We saw them go against Columbus last year for a second year in a row, and they were not losing that series. They were not. But where is the weakness with the Tampa Bay Lightning? It sure as hell isn't goal. It certainly isn't on their blue line. And it's certainly not with their forward group. So I don't know where the weakness is with this group that you could exploit at playoff time.
And getting better with the MVP waiting in the wings here. I'm watching last night, Chicago, and I'm watching what you have just talked about, the depth of this team. And then there's this Ross Colton who scores a goal, and I had to look twice. I'm like, did I just see Marty St. Louis go down the ice and go backhand forehand on a goal here. And I think that was his second career goal in about half a dozen games. But
Right.
I don't know what he was, a fourth or fifth pick.
College
Yeah, fourth
player.
or fifth round. Yeah, fifth round pick, college kid. But like, I'm sitting there going, this is the team to beat.
But
and
they
all due respect to Colorado and what they did to Minnesota last night, Mac, this is the team.
look, you got to give them credit. Like you talked about the kid that scored last night. It's on and on. We've seen these later round picks, whether it's Point or whether it's Anthony Cirelli or who it is, it's later round picks that have made their team and improved them. It's high picks that have helped them. It's Al Murray with his amateur scouting. It's Brisbaugh with his cap management and astute trades. We look at the Sergachev and go back to the Yzerman days, Sergachev trade with Montreal. There's no weakness in the management group. The coaching is a experienced coaching staff, and there's no weaknesses on the ice. I look at a kid they have in Syracuse, Alex Green, a kid that was a fourth-round pick, 22-year-old defenseman, right-hand shot. He's one of the next prospects that's going to make their team. They find these guys, and they develop these guys. And it's, I talked to the owner of Syracuse here, Howard Dolgan, a week ago, and he said, I worked with Howard Dolgan for 7 years when we had our farm team in Columbus. He tells me that Tampa Bay are a model development group. And while Gruel, the head coach down there, has done a nice job developing players. So there's no weakness top to bottom of the organization is what I'm trying to make, the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. And while the focus is over the years have been on Stamkos, Kucherov, Vasilevskiy, Hedman, what really put them over the top, Mac, I'm going to give you three names. Gaudreau, Coleman, and in my opinion, that's still maybe still a little underrated, what Pat Maroon brought them.
Yeah, they were real important guys. And all of a sudden, what's the buzzword out there? Everybody now at the trade deadline is looking for Brady Gaudreau.
Yeah,
they're looking for Coleman, Barkley,
Yep.
and they're looking for Coleman. They're looking for those types of players, which is it's like when I was a president and GM, I used to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I'd say, okay, and I would study the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I'd say, okay, what are these guys doing that we haven't been able to do? What type of, and every year you would go through that same process. Obviously, I didn't pay enough attention.
Heavy players, Game 7 type of players. That is what gave Tampa Bay the added depth to run it for 2 months.
Go back to your team that won the Stanley Cup. What did Neil Smith bring in at the deadline? Heavy people to play in your team.
Yeah.
Heavy, experienced people.
Well, that's what it takes. 4 lines. We know that. Coaches talk about it all the time. Teams are clamoring right now at the deadline to find it. The one team that we think could be a great match, at least the closest match, Mac, still is around Colorado. Last night, pretty sound victory over the Minnesota Wild. They came in hot. Colorado's been hot with 4 in a row. They go to 5. Once again, one of the greatest hockey lines in the world right now, and can certainly be in a conversation with the line in Boston, led by Patrice Bergeron, is McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog. Last night, full value, I think 10 points in the hockey game. They were spectacular.
Yeah, you know what? They are a big line. They're a skilled line. I mean, they're a skating line. I mean, as far as a line is concerned, they're what the Tampa Bay Lightning team is. There's not a weakness on that line. And how do you defend that line? That was a measuring stick last night. Colorado have been a little in and out at times this year. That was a measuring stick last night. That was a game that Colorado had on their calendar. A surging Minnesota Wild team that have played really well lately. The kid has changed the look and the mental outlook of this organization almost overnight in Kirill the Thrill. And but it was a measuring stick. And Colorado, I've got them as a major contender. You have them as a major contender.
But they've got a couple of weaknesses, Mac, and I think outside of McKinnon and Kadri down the middle of the ice, there might be a concern on who's going to be that real checking shutdown guy in the third slot.
Well,
and the other one, yeah, go ahead.
Well, they had the Camper kid there, and he slid now for whatever reason. He's been a healthy scratch. He's down into the fourth line. They got Yost in there in the third hole. I really believe that's a spot they could upgrade to go into the playoffs. We saw last year, Nick, how important was the third line center on lots of teams. That's why I said the Leafs had to make a change in their. I don't mind Kerfoot. He's a good little player. I don't want him as a third line guy in a hard fought playoff series. He can play, but not in that hole. And I think Colorado, as you mentioned, could use an upgrade in the 3 spot. And that's going to be interesting to see if as we go into the trade line. The other area, Nick, I'm not a fan of their goaltending. I'm sorry. I think it costs them. It costs them going to the Stanley Cup playoffs last year. Grubauer gets hurt, and Francouz couldn't get it done. And
Hunter Miska.
It cost them the Stanley Cup final berth last year. So is Joe Sakic going to move to make a change in his goaltending? And what options are there in changing your goaltender? That's a hard position to fill this time of year, Nick.
Yeah.
Very hard position to fill at this time of year. Off season, not so much. In season, kind of a challenge.
Yeah. Well, the big line certainly gives you every reason to think that there is hope for a Stanley Cup final, but unlike in other divisions, man, there's a number of teams that you could see going to a Stanley Cup final, and you have to talk about Vegas and whether or not, they're sitting there going, shut the fuck up about Colorado, man. We've got a better goalie, we've got depth, we've got stars and Stone.
I'll tell you what, them. You cannot criticize what Las Vegas has done. They came off a disappointment last year in a loss in the playoffs. They came off a year prior, another disappointing loss to San Jose. And this team has not skipped a beat. This team is hard to play against. I would put their top 10 forward group up against any top 10 forward group in the entire NHL. You'd put their goaltending up against most. I don't think it's as good as Tampa Bay, but it's exceptional goaltending. It's good great goaltending.
Flurry has been as good as we've seen him throughout his career, Mac. He's having a hell of a year.
I know he is. Are you betting on Flurry versus Vasilevskiy in a playoff? That's a great question, and it's a tough one.
I might be betting a little bit more on Hedman and McDonough and Sergachev.
Probably. So the question, but my point is Vegas, Colorado, St. Louis, who's coming out of that? Who's coming out of there? That is in Minnesota. Look, you wouldn't want to play any of those teams, but Vegas deserve full marks. They had Leonard go down with shoulder, whether it was and concussion issues. I mean, look, Flurry has been spectacular, and Leonard's good.
The a big concern, of course, for Minnesota is not just losing the hockey game, but Matt Dumba went down and needed assistance coming off the ice. Whether or not it's broken leg, fractured ankle. Man, that's the impression that you had when he left the ice here. That could be that's a devastating loss for for Minnesota, Mac, if he's also done this season.
Hey, when you lose a top 4 defenseman, I don't care what team you are, that is a devastating loss, because you're going into the trade deadline and your number one priority is our blue line, is our top 4 group good enough to compete at playoff time? And when you lose a guy, hopefully it's not serious, although Dumba's name seems to be out there. How many years have we listened to Dumba going to be traded?
Yeah.
Hasn't been traded.
The last few years. But
but he's still a good player.
They've committed to Spurgeon, and they still got long-term deals on the other guys. So he was on borrowed time, Mac, and we know that. And some have suggested to me that by the time the offseason was done, they would have worked out a trade with Seattle for Dumba. Yeah. So I don't know what this injury does long-term for Minnesota, but short-term, like you said, devastating.
Yeah, so you go back to the question: Colorado, Vegas, St. Louis, Minnesota. Wow. Those are playoff-built teams. When you look at their forward group, their big 4 on the back end, and their goaltending, with the exception, goaltending in Minnesota, in my opinion, is not Stanley Cup caliber. And I'm not convinced the goaltending in Colorado is Stanley Cup caliber. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I hope so.
Spurgeon at $7.5 million. His contract, of course, he's on that new one that'll run to 2027. Ryan Suter still goes to 2025 at $7.5. Brodin signed that long-term deal that kicks in at $6 million. That goes, I think, beyond 2027. So Dumba has 2 more years at $6 million. That was the contract that is on its way out. I would have thought it would have happened by now, but the way Minnesota was going, I don't think that they had any thoughts of really moving him. We haven't heard his name around, and they're having success there that we didn't envision, and quite frankly, I'm sure they're enjoying very much.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to move on to I don't know. It's almost like a broken record here. How many times can we come on this show? How many times can people go on Sportsnet, TSN, NBCSN, and just talk about how good Connor McDavid is? Like it's almost like skipping a record.
You know what? I'll never forget. This is a famous comment. Okay, that I was with Steve Yzerman for 5 years in Detroit. Okay, and it's documented. I mean, we had our challenges with Steve Yzerman. There's no denying. Brian Murray and I. And Scotty Bowman had his challenges with Steve Yzerman when he came in, and every coach, he was a handful. But I mean, I love Stevie. I got along great with him. I really respected what he did. But this is what Scotty Bowman said to Steve Yzerman: "Do you want to win the scoring race, Stevie, or do you want to win the Stanley Cup?" Connor McDavid, do you want to win the scoring race? You want to win the Stanley Cup. Eichel, you want to win the scoring race? You want to win the Stanley Cup.
See, that's where you and Brian Murray fucked up. Why wouldn't you have asked him that? Why did you wait to get fired and then have Scotty Bowman come in and say that to him?
I used to say, Stevie, you got to win the scoring race.
That's where you screwed up.
But you know what? So, when your superstars decide that winning the Stanley Cup is what it's really all about,
but
you can have the Hart Trophy, you can have the Conn Smythe, you can have all those in your bedroom, but if you have the Stanley Cup in your bedroom.
Okay, but I liked Steve Yzerman's chances a lot better when you looked around the room.
Exactly.
I'm not sure whether or not if you said that to Connor McDavid today, it would mean anything to him because he looks around the room and he doesn't see what Stevie Y saw.
No, but don't forget, Stevie Y was there for a long time before that group came aboard. That's where I give Scotty Bowman, Kenny Holland, Jimmy Devellano credit. Brian Murray and I helped get a basic group in there with McCarty and LaPointe and Draper and those types of guys, Fedorov, but it was Scotty that brought in the complementary. We brought in Coffey. They brought in Shanahan. They brought in Hull. They brought in, not Konstantinov, but the other big Russian that was an important guy. They brought in Larionov. Fetisov. They brought in Larionov. The complementary group really, really grew after Brian and I left. So that's the credit they deserve. And Stevie kept watching this grow. And but it started before they got there that Stevie became a complete 200-foot player.
Since getting annihilated by the Toronto Maple Leafs a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, there's a good feeling right now in Edmonton. But if you're Kenny Holland right now, is it still the concern that it is on the backs of McDavid and Draisaitl up front? And we'll get to Tyson Berry and Darnell Nurse a little bit. Don't worry, Edmonton fans. We won't shut them out of this conversation, but you're not getting great or career numbers out of anybody else. And Puljujarvi has been a nice add-on because he's a big, strong guy and he can lean and he's playing a heavy game, but it's not like you look around the room and Tyler Ennis or James Neal, and Kyle Turris, still Mac. We talk about Colorado in the third slot and the concerns there. But Kyle Turris has not come in and did what he was supposed to do. And there is got to be concerns that it's all on the backs of these guys playing like MVPs every night.
What has really changed there? What has changed in Edmonton? There's one thing that's changed in Edmonton. All the guys you talked about, the McDavid, the Draisaitl, they're unbelievable. Smith has given them consistent goaltending. He got injured. He's come back at 40 years of age or whatever he is, and he's given them confidence as a group. His goaltending has been better than they had. It's given them a chance to win the odd game. And it's spread from there. Now, the big question is, can Smith and Koskinen be good enough to take them through the rest of the season? That was our number one question going into the season.
Yeah.
Clefbaum loss on the blue line, and their goaltending. And at this point, Smith has proven us wrong. But I'll tell you what, he's changed the dynamic of that hockey team. They all of a sudden are playing better team defense because he's given them some big saves and given them some confidence. And they're a different looking team.
And he is, in this back half of the season, he is earning the right to maybe go back to Ken Holland and say, I'm your answer. Don't go finding it at the trade deadline.
How can you argue with him? But that's going to be a major question. And it goes back to Colorado. How many goalies can you find at the deadline that you feel comfortable putting in at playoff time and taking you through a round? So it'll be fun to watch that. The thing that jumps out at me is, and I saw this comment, McDavid, Nick, he comes off the bench, skate to stick, boom, in the net. This guy is so damn fast and so,
broken record time.
Oh my God, is he quick and fast twitch. And it's just, it's how do you defend this guy? And we love Matthews and all these great players, but this guy is unique. He is unique. How many give and goes does he make in a 2-minute power play? I mean, you watch him in a power play. He makes the play, gets the puck again, makes the play, gets it again, boom, boom, all over the map.
He's
quick is like you can't believe.
Laterally, the greatest thing I've ever seen on skates. Just
Jill said
east
to
west.
me, Jill made a comment to me yesterday that's just so accurate. She said, "You are Connor McDavid quick on the pickleball court." That's a compliment. I said, Jill, that is a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, it is a compliment.
You're Sidney Crosby smart. You're Sidney Crosby smart on the pickleball court, but you're Connor McDavid quick, Doug.
When she turned her back on you saying it, you didn't see her eyes rolling back. Guaranteed.
Yeah, for sure.
Guaranteed.
Anyway,
well, he's on pace right now in this shortened season for 100 points. I think over the course of 82 regular season games, he could probably have lit up this 145, 150 points. Whatever was a 3-man race, if we include, Patrick Kane, Austin Matthews, Marc-Andre Fleury maybe on the outside of an MVP season, now is a one-man race.
Yeah. With the way they've performed, Toronto went in and shut them out. Not shut them out, but 3 games, Toronto went in and shut them down without Matthews and without their number 1 goalie in a couple of games. And now, for whatever reason, we've got an awakening going on, and now you'd like to see them play again. But, it's you thought with the experience of Holland and Tippett and McDavid and Draisaitl and company that it would eventually happen. But we questioned it, no doubt about that.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Tyson Berry. I think it was Gene that did his opening with a blueberry, a raspberry, a strawberry, and then he gets to his Tyson Berry. I thought it was pretty funny.
Which one was John Shannon? Was he the strawberry, the raspberry, or the blueberry?
John, to me, is he's a strawberry. I think he's all strawberry.
Yeah, he's so pleasant.
Should we give Kenny Holland more credit? Should we give the most credit to Tyson Berry? Why has this been a good fit, leading all defensemen in scoring? And I think the first one since maybe even Paul Coffey, I think I read, to get to this point, in this amount of games.
I think you give credit, but it shouldn't it be common sense that when you have the number 1 power play in the league last year, you have Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, that if you put an offensive defenseman with that group, he's going to get points. He's going to get points. And then you got to say, Barry was not very good last year. Barry's name's been out there for as long as I can remember. I mean, every year, Colorado, his name was out there for whatever reason. But you cannot deny the fact that he's played well.
He had Marner and Matthews in Toronto and a pretty good power play too, and
it didn't work. And it
didn't work.
I don't get that. Maybe it's because he's not a support guy. Maybe he has to be more of an important guy. Maybe that's what it is. Nurse is a defensive guy, but he's also a horse. It's been a great combination.
You make a good point, because the chemistry between Barry and Babcock before Babcock moved on was horrific. And we all heard the stories about how miserable Tyson Berry was. Yeah. And he didn't catch up, Mac. It was almost as if it was, the tone setter that made it the disaster that it was in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys find their niche. Like, I look at TJ Brody. Is there a guy in the face of the earth that's more blessed? TJ Brody is a skater. He's a puck mover. He's a good, solid guy. But he plays with Giordano for about 7 years, and he is a great compliment for the Norris Trophy winner. Then he goes to Toronto and he gets with Morgan Riley, and it's a great compliment. So credit to credit to Brody.
Yeah.
But you got to credit his partners too, that he has been able to be a 1-2 or a number 2 defenseman in the league. And I believe a lot of it has to do with who he plays with and how he complements the great player he's been playing with for a number of years. 10 years.
Leafs on a skid of 5 of 6 losers, and they're shaking it up a little bit. We expect Simmons back in the lineup tonight against Calgary. If we still assume, despite the skid of the Toronto Maple Leafs, that they are the top team in the North and maybe in the favorites, does it bounce back and forth now between Edmonton and Winnipeg to say who is the second best?
I still don't think you can. I still think Montreal have got to be in the mix too.
Okay.
I really do. I would say one night I'm saying, well, Winnipeg look like they're the team. And then the next night I say, well, Edmonton look like they're the team. And then the next night I see Montreal play a complete game. And I think, geez, I wouldn't want to play them. So I still think it's a little early. But Toronto, Dubas comes out and makes the big comment. I mean, I am ready to move a top prospect or whatever to get somebody. That will be an important situation.
Did you like his press conference? I said at times, I thought on Wednesday's show that it was a little bit more forthcoming. Did he tip his hand? Did he show other general managers that maybe not desperate, but this sense of urgency to do it now?
I'm prepared to pay. I'm prepared to pay a price. You typically don't hear that from a GM. You typically don't. But the quarantine situation with those dynamics, it puts a little more urgency to an organization that has to progress through the playoffs. And
if I'm a general manager, though, Mac, and you have interest in my player, albeit a rental or somebody maybe with another year on his contract, I'm getting you to overpay right now. That's my job.
Well, look at, Taylor Hall's a name. I mean, Taylor Hall to fit with Tavares Nylander. What price are you going to ask the Toronto Maple Leafs for if you're the Buffalo Sabres? What price? You said it a couple of weeks ago. What the price is.
I'm trying for a first rounder.
Or who?
Well, Nick Robertson is the guy that everybody would ask for.
Exactly. And they've got a couple of defensemen there they think are prospects, but is Toronto gonna go there for a rental? That is what my point is. Because of his press conference, that's where he's going to be tested at. His top guys, his top prospects will be where he will be tested at.
There's a first rounder, Sandin Liljegren, the first rounder that they just drafted out of Russia,
but not close to Robertson.
Robertson would 100% like goal scoring, a potential goal scorer is a premium Mac. So
and you know how hard it would be to move him? Are
you not now looking for, that's not a rental Mac. You're going to give up Robertson or
I agree.
Sandin. You got to go get a guy like Raquel out of Anaheim who who will give you 2 cracks.
That's right. I agree 100%.
Now, I said,
but I'm just saying, because of the press conference, the asking price is going to start out quite high.
The other thing too is can they get Kerfoot's contract off the books at $3.5 million? Or you're going to have to start managing around this, with dropping guys. And we started the show off at the top talking about the way Tampa Bay manipulated the cap with one big injury in Kucherov. But those phantom injuries, Mac, keep an eye on them.
I thought Robidas Island was closed.
No, No, it's
open
not.
for business. It's open
No,
for business.
no. You're going to start hearing guys that might have to sit out for 7 days with a sore back or
I know.
anything that can help the cap. There's no
Yeah.
question that teams will be looking at it, and me and you, we'd be doing the same thing, right? Whatever it takes.
100%.
Whatever it takes. So,
yep.
Islanders, Mac. Anders Lee. Devastating. We talked about Dumba going down last night. Anders Lee, if you're Lou Lamoriello, I got to think that you're thinking that you need a major frontline guy, and whether it is, Taylor Hall. That's what I envision Lou doing, Mac.
Unless, the question is, are they good enough to get in the playoffs without Andrew Lee? Because, there's a good chance he's going to be back for the playoffs, Anders Lee. I
think he's done. No. I think he's done.
Is he not back for the? Oh, no. I thought he was back for the playoffs.
No. He had ACL surgery, Mac.
So he's toast. He's
toast.
I saw the other day Lou say he thought he'd be back for just the regular, or would miss the regular season. Okay, that changed.
Major surgery. As far as I know, he had major ACL surgery. So
yeah. So then that's a whole different ballgame. Yeah, that's a monumental loss. This guy was so good last year in the playoffs, and he's such a horse for them. That big, strong guy down the middle. Big loss. Big loss. So, Lou, and the fact if Toronto's looking at somebody, Lou is looking at the same person.
The name I'm hearing right now out there a ton, Mac, and I kind of like finding names that a lot of people aren't talking about, but I hear Arizona want to dump $7.1 million in the worst way with Clayton Keller. They want that thing off the books.
Wow. Who was supposed to be there. I remember the day he was drafted. He was the guy that was going to be a special player. And he looked at times that he was going to be. And then that contract, wow. That's an interesting name.
Yeah.
That's an interesting name. And, is he, well, certainly guys would like to, the guy can score. The guy can score. The guy can play in today's game in the regular season. That'll be an interesting one.
Yeah. That's an interesting one.
And where do you have him? Where do you have him going?
Mac, I look at the Islanders, and I think at times that he could be a Lou guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Long term, again, I don't know what 7.1 does for Lou, to pick up that contract, but could you even get, again, when you're talking about trades of that magnitude, you're talking about potentially Arizona picking up a portion of it. When you talk about Taylor Hall, even what's left on his deal.
Yeah, people are going to have to pay some of it.
Well, and you're also, there's a very good chance that you can invite a third party into a trade. I think if we have a chance, Mac, of seeing a number of trades between now and the deadline, I think we got a chance to see third parties involved more than ever to try to balance things out, especially with money in, money out.
No, I believe that. I really do. And we're going to see creativity like we've never seen at this trade deadline. So we've started to see it in past deadlines. This may take it to a new level this year.
Well, there's a lot of pressure, I think, for the Islanders and Barry Trotz to continue this, the momentum that they had, Mac. I thought they'd be in the mix as far as playoffs are concerned, but didn't really see them being one of the leaders in the East. And prior to Lee going down, they were good.
And then you see, was it New Jersey beat them last night?
Yeah.
I mean, they can't miss a beat in that division. Philly get humiliated. Philly come back and win last night. I mean, blow a lead, but they come back and win. New Jersey beat the Islanders. Boston go into Buffalo. Boston with a bad lineup, in my opinion, a bad lineup. and Buffalo, and they get a 4-1 win in Buffalo. So it's not, nobody's going to drop. I mean, it's going to be tight till the last day in that division.
Boston's another team that I think could think about Clayton Keller.
Yeah, 100%. And Taylor Hall's name has been linked there. And Keller's been linked there. They've got to do something. They have been fighting to find a second. I mean, they signed Craig Smith to be a scorer for them. He's got, 5 goals? Craig Smith's a good player, but he's not the scorer they need. You know, DeBrusk is DeBrusk scores last night, but he hasn't been able to score. His name's out there as a potential trade guy.
I don't see that, Mac.
I don't either, but his name's out there.
Go look at the success he's already had, and I hear Corrali and Jake out there, and I'm going, go back and look at their playoff numbers and their record, okay?
And how important those two guys were.
And that is huge. That type of experience and that type of pedigree where that when the chips are on the line that these guys have been proven competitors.
I mean, think about
why do I want to get rid of that if I'm Boston?
How many big goals did Jake DeBrusk score at playoff time? And I don't care how many guys scores in the regular season. How many goals did Corrali score?
Yes.
So you know what? Those are. It's going to be interesting. Boston are not that deep, and I mean, I'm watching them play last night. I mean, they had a 5'7" defenseman, Ashkan, or a kid. I forget where he came from in college, but he was a college free agent. He's 5'7", and he's out there playing last night. I mean, doesn't mean he's not a good player. Doesn't mean he's not going to be a. Krug was 5'7".
You know what that means?
Jack Ashawn, Doug. St. Cloud State boy, played World Juniors. Guy's a stud.
You know what it does mean? It means he's half of the size of Chara. That's all that means.
And he's almost half the size of Joe Holka.
Can't confirm. I've stood next to him before. He basically comes up to my nipples.
He was a St. Cloud kid, and he put up points. But he's a prospect for them, and he's playing. That's how thin they are right now.
Mac, I'm not one to over-critique a win, but the Flyers over the Islanders last night and blowing a 3-0 lead on in a game that you're coming off a 9-0 shellacking, an embarrassment that probably ran as any in their history. I think it was the worst shutout in Flyer history, 9-0 on the road, I think. And you almost blew it last night. So if you're Alain Vigneault, how would you have woken up this morning saying a win's a win, or holy shit, how did we not close the door, and how did we let them back in? And we only we got a late goal by Lindblom, who hadn't scored in like 20 games to win this thing.
Here's what I'm thinking if I'm Vigneault waking up. I'm thinking, okay, thank God we won, and thank God the Devils beat the Penguins. Yes. That's what I'm thinking, and we'll worry about this other stuff at practice today. But I'm thinking, thank God we got our 2 points, and Pittsburgh lost their game. That's what I'd be thinking.
Is Chuck feeling pressure that he never felt in Minnesota, being the general manager of the Philadelphia Flyers?
As somebody said one time, there's two things in pro sports. There's winning and there's misery. And that's what it is. If you're winning, and if you're not winning, it's misery. And that's what Chuck was feeling during the 9-0 loss. Misery.
We talk about Kyle Dubas maybe feeling it, but
he's going through misery right now.
The expectations in Philadelphia, and it's so funny. We waited forever for Carter Hart to come up, to pour, the detriment of Hextall, who basically lost his job because he sat on probably Carter Hart too long.
Yeah.
And yet now at the age of 22, it feels like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, Mac, because he has not been good.
No.
And you discussed it earlier in this show, man. You get some solid goaltending like Mike Smith can win a 2-1 game, and it completely changes the complexion of the Edmonton Oilers. Carter Hart has not been able to do that this year for the Flyers.
And he started off, it looked like he was going to be able to, and now there's questions about him. There's questions about their blue line. There's always been questions about this forward group, if they were really as committed as they thought. And now the other pressure is it's maybe one of Chuck's team or Hextall's team getting in the playoffs. And that's added pressure that you don't need because Flyer fans are bringing it up.
Well,
it's a little sidebar.
We got a few minutes left here, Mac, and the poor Buffalo Sabres, they've been beat up so badly here. Nice that Donnie Granato gets a chance. Maybe we'll give them a break today, Mac. Maybe we'll pick it up maybe Monday in terms of where they go next, and whether or not this losing streak continues. But
I think that's for the best too, Kipper.
At least Okposo got on the board finally. Yeah. But I don't know.
Let me just tell you.
We need you to take a shot at somebody, but we can't even pick Columbus because they won.
Here's all I'm going to say about Buffalo is I watched the game last night, or bits of the game, and I looked and I saw their first line was Riley Sheehan at center, Taylor Hall at left wing, and Tage Thompson on right wing.
Yeah. Need you say more?
No, I think I've summed it up.
Okay. Now, big win in Columbus. Let's try to end Friday when you have something positive to say about
the Blue Jackets are 2 points behind the Chicago Blackhawks for the last playoff spot. Nashville get a win, they get a little closer. Dallas blow a win last night. They didn't blow it, they lost. Can Dallas survive another 5 weeks till they get Sagan back and Bishop back?
I don't know. I think
it's 5 weeks before Sagan and Bishop are back. Can they last 5 weeks and have a push when they get a healthy team to get that last playoff spot? Because and now what does Columbus do? As a positive note, Columbus are 2 out, and now you got a Savard question, you got a Foligno question. Who do they move? Who do they keep? Or do they try to get in the playoffs?
Well, it's David Savard. They've committed on Seth Jones and Werenski to try to get them signed, and whether or not we believe that will happen or not is another story.
Right.
But they're not going down that path with David Savard. So
no, exactly. But
he's got one foot out the door already. He's just wondering where he's going to end up. We heard Edmonton, we heard Winnipeg, and
Montreal.
Those are the teams in the North.
Yeah. So, that's the question. But if you take Savard out of that lineup, it's taking a top 4 defenseman. They pick up a kid from Toronto, the defenseman from Russia, Finland, who played in the Russian league. Lekkonen. I mean, is that going to be enough to take Savard's spot short term? I don't know.
Did you see the backhand pass from Max Domi?
Yes, I did.
To Stenlund?
Yes, I did.
That
a great play by the
pretty
kid.
Good backhand.
Great pass.
Not probably didn't have the depth of a Tim Stützle, but it was money. Somebody
ripped me for it was a person of German descent saying that my Strutzel isn't very accurate. What did you call him?
Stützle.
Stützle.
Am I right?
I don't know if you're right or not, but I know the guy said I wasn't right. Not that I give a shit, but that's okay.
Over our years of broadcasting, how many times have players changed the pronunciation of their own names?
No, I thought you were going to ask over our broadcasting career, how many people complained about my pronunciation?
You were a solid second behind Don Cherry.
I was very close. And look, Cherry made millions, and look what it did for me.
Got you on the #1 podcast, my friend.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
I have a chance for you guys to be right as we end the show today for the week. We have 4 teams that are in the running for the Stanley Cup currently, as our friends at Sportsbooks would say. The Lightning at +500, the Avalanche at +700, the Leafs at +800, and the Knights at the Golden Knights at +800. Who are we picking right now? Where's the value? To me, I think it has to be on the Avalanche or the Knights. I don't think the Leafs are in that same range, and why bet on the favorite if it's only +500, right?
Oh, I don't
Well,
understand.
because you like keeping your money, and winning is winning, whether it's $1 or $100 or $1 million. Winning is winning, and I just see now Kucherov coming in and being the cherry on top for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now we'll see where Colorado goes at the trade deadline.
Of those 4 teams that you just listed, I'm saying Tampa Bay 1. I'm saying Vegas 2.
Wow.
I'm saying Colorado 3. And who was the 4th team?
The Leafs.
Leafs.
Yeah, that's my 1 to 4.
And Leafs by default, because somebody's got to get in there out of the the division. But
you can't have. Yeah, you could. Can you have the 2 teams? You can't have the Final 4. It couldn't be that, could it? The Final 4? No, it can't be that in the Final 4. You can't have Vegas and Colorado in the Final 4.
No.
Yeah, those are just the betting favorites right now for the
Stanley Cup. We're just speaking. We're just speaking in terms of
betting. Yeah, for I3.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So I think that was the theme. Definitely this last hour is that the deepest team right now are the Tampa Bay Lightning, in our opinion. And
I'm going on.
And Vegas. You make a good point, Mac. Vegas is right there.
I'm going on I3 this afternoon and placing some serious cash on. Well, not serious. I mean, maybe.
Why don't you see how your pickleball game fares out? Is anyone taking bets? You got a little bookie action at the condo there?
I bet Jill's pretty good. I bet Jill might be better than Doug at this point, to be honest.
No, not even close. Not even close.
She absolutely
All
carries
Jill
you.
ever says to me is, get your ass up to the net. Don't be hanging back.
Did I tell you guys? My dad almost tore his Achilles last time he was playing pickleball with my mom. He goes so hardcore that he dives all over the place. And next thing you know, I had to take him to the doctors.
Oh no! Don't laugh. I'm quick. Don't kid yourself.
There is no prize money, guys.
Okay? Pride. It's all for pride.
There's no.
Have fun. I got to run.
All right, Doug Maclean, golf, pickleball, March Madness, whatever you want. Enjoy the rest of your day. For all of you watching and listening, thank you for joining us. It was a great week. If you're a first-time watcher, subscribe, all right? And give us some comments, give us some feedback. Tell us what you like. We're not going to 11 a.m. Don't worry. That's just a one-off for our good friend, Doug Maclean. So for Joe, Jordan, and yours truly, thanks for watching, and we'll see you Monday on the Real Kyper at noon show.